Welcome to Serenity and Fire, the podcast where wellness meets grit. I'm your host, Krista Guidenti, founder of Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique. Join me as we dive into the intriguing world of biohacking, clean living, cutting-edge spa trends, and the hustle, grind, and grit of entrepreneurship. From my personal battles with weight management, infertility, and a 30-year journey to create and launch my dream business, to building a sanctuary for those who have been touched by cancer, I'm here to share real talk, inspire big dreams, and spark a passion for holistic living inside each and every one of you. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Serenity and Fire. Today, I'm starting something new, and I'm super excited about this because it's something I've been thinking about for a while, and it revolves around how I'm always talking to you about going clean, and how I'm always saying that you should take this journey one step at a time. Find one small product to start with, and then build from there. But I know how overwhelming the idea of going clean actually can be, especially when we're so misled by industry. Products have labels that say they're clean when they're actually really not. They put all sorts of labeling that looks good and makes you think you're doing the right thing for your body, but then later you learn that what you thought was good for you was actually just false advertising. It's super exhausting. I get it. So I thought every once in a while, it might be nice for me to share my personal product discoveries. What I found that works and doesn't work, what is really toxic and not, and just all of the deep dive stuff that you probably don't have time to dig into, or if you did have the time, maybe you don't even understand what you found. So today, I want to welcome you to the first episode of my product integrity series, Clean Living Without Chaos. In this series, I'll take one everyday product and break it down for you, without fear, without hype, and without all the overwhelming feelings that come along with finding good products. As I just mentioned, clean living today can feel very chaotic. Every ingredient is toxic, every product is dangerous, but most of the time, what's missing is context. So in this series, we're going to be looking at evidence, exposure levels, trade-offs, and real-world impact, so you can make informed decisions without spiraling out of control over perfectionism. And today's product is something small but revealing. I'm talking about dental floss. Most of us use it daily without having a second thought. It's quick, it's routine, it feels very neutral. But flossing is repetitive, and in wellness, repetitive exposures are where conversations around toxicity get interesting, because product integrity isn't just about the big stuff like food and supplements. It's about the quiet daily habits that compound over time. I bet you are unaware that many conventional dental flosses are made from nylon, polyester, and/or something called PTFE. This is a plastic made from carbon and fluorine atoms. It's the same material commonly known as Teflon, and it belongs to the broader family of PFAS chemicals or PFAS chemicals, often referred to as those forever chemicals that I previously mentioned. Those forever chemicals, once exposed, persist in the environment and in the human body. PFAS are often added to floss to create a slippery texture that glides easily between tight teeth. A few years ago, investigative reporting actually brought this issue into the spotlight when certain PTFE-based flosses were associated with higher PFAS levels in users' blood samples. Sounds scary, right? And it is something we should pay attention to, but when the study was broken down, it really only showed an association. It did not prove that floss alone caused elevated PFAS levels, because the reality is that PFAS exposure comes from many sources. Things like nonstick cookware, food packaging, contaminated water, and industrial runoff. But this study did confirm something important, and that is that materials matter. Harvard researchers later emphasized that PFAS exposure is complex and cumulative, and that eliminating it wherever possible is reasonable, but context is critical. And that word, context, is everything in this conversation. When you look at the most popular floss brands on the market, the ones that most of us grew up with, many are made entirely from synthetic materials like nylon, polyester, or PTFE, meaning the fiber itself is plastic-based. This is a concern because any synthetic fiber, including polyester or nylon, is a form of plastic that can release micro and nanoplastics when subjected to friction between the teeth. As you floss, the mechanical friction against your teeth causes synthetic fibers to fray and tatter. This process releases tiny particles directly into your mouth, which can then be swallowed or potentially embedded in gum tissue. Because flossing is a daily habit, using a floss with even a partial plastic composition creates a constant source of microplastic exposure. Polyester and nylon are petroleum-based polymers, and research in 2024 and 2025 has increasingly identified these materials as potential endocrine disruptors that can trigger inflammation and oxidative stress when they enter in the body. This is nothing new to us. We've talked about this a lot. And while the American Dental Association notes that clinical evidence of direct health impacts from these specific particles is still emerging, other researchers highlight significant risks, including tissue infiltration, meaning that microplastics can enter the bloodstream and circulate through organs, including the lungs and the brain. And then there's hormone disruption. Some plastic-related chemicals are linked to hormone disruption and increased risk of heart attack or stroke. And then finally, carcinogenic potential. Certain additives used in polyester production have been identified as potential carcinogens. While some brands are reformulating for 2026 to remove these substances, others continue to use them for their performance benefits. But for someone with tight teeth, the dental benefits of flossing generally outweigh the risks of microplastic exposure because the immediate dangers of gum disease and tooth decay are clinically proven. Dentists emphasize that the risks of periodontal disease, which can lead to tooth loss and systemic inflammation, is a verified and immediate threat. Flossing is the most effective way to remove plaque from the tight spaces where these diseases start. While 2025 research has detected microplastics in human saliva and tissues, the American Dental Association notes there is no current clinical evidence showing a meaningful health impact from these specific particles compared to the proven harm of skipping flossing. And then finally, when we look at localized irritation, in tight spaces, polyester fibers are more likely to shred. These tiny fragments can become embedded in the gum line, potentially causing redness, swelling, or chronic low-grade inflammation. That said, tight teeth, like mine, complicate the choice even more because tight contacts create higher friction, which increases the likelihood of an all-natural floss shredding and getting stuck between my teeth. So the dilemma is this: if you switch to a 100% natural fiber like silk, it may break or get stuck, leading to frustration and inconsistent flossing. So what's the compromise? If your teeth are too tight to use a floss that's made from natural fibers, the primary concern then shifts from using one that has synthetic fibers to one that has forever chemicals in it. Many gliding flosses use PTFE, or that Teflon material, which is linked to more significant systemic health issues than polyester microplastics alone. So what are the best solutions for tight teeth? Well, first, you can look at water flossers. Brands like Waterpik are the most popular toxin-free alternative for tight teeth, as they use pressurized water instead of abrasive string. But they aren't always the best for removing plaque, and a floss is still typically needed to loosen up that plaque in between your teeth. And then there are PFAS-free style flosses. If you must use synthetic glide floss, ensure it is labeled PFAS-free. This eliminates the most toxic chemical additives while still using a smooth plastic ribbon that won't shred as easily as something like a natural fiber. And then there are products called expansion floss, something like Dr. Tung's Smart Floss. This uses a polyester nylon blend, but it's designed to expand and be gentler on gums, though they still contain microplastics. At the spa, we recently added a new charcoal floss to the boutique that's made of 80% bamboo fibers, 20% polyester, essential oils, and candelia wax. We had previously only carried a cornstarch-based floss, which at the time I was super excited about because I had finally found a floss that was toxin-free. But every time I used this floss personally, it would shred and get stuck in between my teeth. I even had one time when I drove myself so crazy trying to get the floss out from in between my molars that I tore up my gums and my fingers because I was holding the floss so tight it was just grinding into my fingers and making them bleed. So after that experience, I was determined to find a floss that wouldn't break between my tight teeth and that also wasn't filled with PFAS. This new floss is PFAS free, it glides beautifully, and it doesn't break, but it does contain 20% polyester. And I'll be honest, that gave me pause when I discovered this because, as I mentioned, polyester is a synthetic polymer. And anytime we're talking about plastic, microplastic concerns enter the conversation. So let's chat about that. I sincerely troubled myself with this question. Does flossing with a polyester material create meaningful microplastic exposure? If I'm carrying this product in my spa, I want to make sure that it's helping my clients and not making their troubles worse. So here's what I was able to uncover. When you floss, the friction is minimal and brief. Any theoretical microplastic shredding would be microscopic and extremely small compared to what we're exposed to through food packaging, bottled beverages, synthetic clothing fibers, and even indoor dust. Right now, there's no strong clinical evidence showing that flossing with nylon or polyester at these levels causes measurable systemic illness. That doesn't mean zero exposure. It means perspective matters. So when people ask me, is a floss with 20% polyester better or worse? We have to ask, better or worse than what? If you're comparing a PFAS-free floss that contains about 20% polyester, like our new charcoal floss, to something that's fully synthetic, you are objectively reducing synthetic load and eliminating PFAS exposure. Is that difference catastrophic? No. Is it directionally better? Yes. And in clean living, directionally better consistently is what compounds and matters. More synthetic content does mean more plastic interaction with gum tissue, but exposure does not automatically equal harm, especially at very small scales like what we're talking about in this charcoal floss. And that's where nuance is important. If you choose silk floss, you eliminate plastic entirely, but silk can break, especially if you have tight contacts in your teeth like I do. If you choose plant-based PLA floss, it's biodegradable, but still technically a polymer and sometimes less durable. Water flossers eliminate fiber friction altogether, but they don't always fully replace traditional floss for those tight teeth. Every option involves trade-offs, and this is the part most wellness conversations skip. Clean living is not about perfection. It's about reducing the most concerning exposures first while maintaining functionality and sanity. For me, the hierarchy looks like this: eliminate PFAS, protect my gum integrity, reduce synthetic load where practical, and stay sane. And what I was doing with that cornstarch-based floss was definitely not staying sane. So having this charcoal floss that we just introduced to the boutique has been a game changer for me, even if it does have a little bit of polyester exposure in it. And this episode really isn't about floss, though. It's about navigating wellness headlines intelligently. Yes, research raised awareness about PFAS in floss, and yes, materials matter, but modern exposure assessments require discernment. Microplastic exposure is cumulative, but so is stress. If you obsess over every microscopic exposure, you dysregulate your nervous system, and that also impacts health. So we zoom out, we focus on the biggest levers, things like water quality, cookware, food packaging, indoor air. Then we refine the smaller levers like floss wherever we can. And should I find a floss that doesn't get stuck in my teeth, that has absolutely no synthetic materials, then I will pivot and make that switch to that product for the boutique at Panacea. But for now, this is as close to perfection as we can get. And all of this is exactly why I'm starting this product integrity series, because modern wellness requires discernment, and small choices can have compounding effects. Awareness compounds, intentionality compounds, and integrity means everything, whether in products, leadership, or culture. Integrity is never accidental, so I'm here to help you break it all down and figure out what is best for you right now. If this episode helped you think more clearly about how to evaluate everyday products, share it with someone who wants to live clean without living anxious. Okay, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening to Serenity and Fire. If today's episode inspired you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave a review, or share this episode with someone who might need to hear this message. And don't forget to follow us on social too at Serenity and Fire. Until next time, keep balancing serenity with fire. I'm Krista Guidenti, and I'll talk with you more in our next episode. At Panacea Luxury Spa Boutique, we don't just offer traditional spa treatments. We create rituals that relax your mind, restore your health, and rejuvenate your spirit. From biohacking technologies to advanced oncology-trained care, everything we do is designed to help you heal on the deepest level with clean, holistic therapies, products, and amenities that are second to none. And right now, you can experience two of my favorites, our whole body LED light bed or hyperbaric oxygen therapies. And as a thank you for listening, you'll get 10% off your first session when you use the code Serenity10 at booking. What is your panacea? Let us help you find it, because true wellness isn't a quick fix, it's a ritual.